how to lose weight while in perimenopause or menopause. A question we have had many times, but people keep asking. It is a hot topic.
And that's okay. So here's the thing. Annie and I talked about this question before we went live and it's just such a big question. I'd like you to understand that that's a big question with lots of different factors. It's a very generic question, right? It's kind of like, how do I lose weight postpartum? How do I, and so I'm going to link you to a podcast where we spend a significant amount of time talking about it, and it'll be a better quality experience for you to listen to that podcast than listen to us in this live. So number one, a lot of the women you hear on our podcast are probably perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, right? That is the age that we work with. The most, like, the number one thing I think I want people to know who are listening to this live is that the mechanism doesn't change. Okay. And so, she's asked, it's like how to lose weight while in perimenopause in the same way that when you're not in perimenopause. And that's sometimes surprising to hear, but I want
and maybe even disappointing.
And maybe disappointing, but it's why it's important for you to understand that is because in this period of your life, you are so vulnerable to diet culture and honestly disordered eating. So I think it was Amanda Thebe. She's a menopause expert, and we've had her on our podcast, which we'll link you to her episodes with us as well. She talks about how I think during perimenopause is when, like, the second most common time in women's lives when they become susceptible to eating disorders, which I like. That just speaks to like how vulnerable we are. Many women put on weight during the perimenopausal period. And that is because their symptoms are just brutal. They're brutal. That leads to different lifestyle. I mean, we call them, is it a decision, not a decision? We're just trying to cope, which leads to a shift in energy balance, which leads to weight gain. Okay. And even though it might not be obvious to you, that's the thing with behaviors. We for a lot of our days, many of us are on autopilot, right? So we're not even aware when some of our behaviors shift. But, again, if I've said this before, and I won't really do this, but if I tied someone to a tree who was in perimenopause, and I tied someone to a tree who wasn't in perimenopause, they probably lose weight at the same rate. Right? So it's just that there are more challenges for you because you don't feel as good. And people who feel good, like feel well, emotionally, mentally, physically, there's just less friction, less tension between them and that goal. There's just a little more friction for you. Now, I guess what I would recommend, the second thing I want to say is that there is a shift in body composition during perimenopause that is very challenging for women to accept, but it is what it is. And we go through many hormonal shifts in our lives as women. Yay, go us. We all go through puberty. Some women will also experience pregnancy and postpartum. Those are huge hormonal shifting times in our lives where our body composition is also shifting. And then perimenopause. That's also it's just, you're going through a big hormonal shift. Your body composition is going to change. And a lot of people don't like it. They don't like it. And it is the way it is. So we can only control what we can control, right? And I would say the best plan for losing weight in perimenopause is to, number one, try and get on top of your perimenopause symptoms, to try to be managing those symptoms a little bit better. Number three, look at your mindset about perimenopause. Like, the mindset is such a big thing too. And I don't want you to be vulnerable to diet culture, because I am at an age where when I log into social media, all the gross, disgusting diet companies who are trying to target women in menopause, they are now targeting me because I'm in that age bracket. And so I see what is being pushed on people. As a science, evidence-based nutrition coach, it's like floors me. And these and in the comment sections of these ads are like hundreds to thousands of comments. Like, women are desperate, and they want to believe there's something special during this time.
Yeah.
So that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, that's all. Breathe. Take a deep breath. Yeah, I do want to say I think it really can be step one for a lot of women in this stage of life might be accepting that, like you said, the mechanism is the same. It's going to come down to energy balance. And again, that doesn't mean that there aren't experiences that make that more difficult or, give you some new challenges to work through. But really, if you are resisting that this energy balance still applies here, you're probably going to be facing an uphill battle.
I'd also say that those who are having a tricky time in perimenopause, our perimenopause symptoms, it's like puberty. Some of us get acne, some of us don't, some of us sprout up, some of us don't, some of us gain weight, some of us don't. Like, it's just what's going to happen? We don't know. It's a spectrum, and it's different across the board. Some people get it worse than others, and that sucks, and I'm sorry. I'm bracing myself for it. My mom's was horrific. I also can see, and from the experts we've had on our podcast, what happens when we go through this period, it's similar to when we go through just like, even just a stressful season of life. Our lifestyle habits that just aren't that great are kind of like magnified when we go through perimenopause. So if you have like less than ideal, like alcohol habits, emotional eating habits, etc., like they're just going to go in perimenopause because because you don't feel good, you're struggling to cope, you're not sleeping well. And so it's like anyone listening who's headed into that season, like me, it's like, you're kind of like, you really have to understand, and there's lots of women in, postmenopausal, perimenopause who will say this, do the things that you need to do to set yourself up to have a little more ease when you hit menopause, because you don't know what it's going to be like. So it's never too late. That's the other thing I want to say. We teach eating skills inside Balance365. And if you have no eating skills, when you hit perimenopause, again, you're not going to have any skills. It's just going to be like, like this. It's going to be really hard. So yeah, that's what I would say. Don't do a restrictive diet. Don't start taking some wacko supplement being sold online. Don't believe people who tell you that you need to do something dramatically different. Somehow your physiology is changing and now you need this super secret protocol. It's just not true.
Yeah.
But I do say, as getting older, like, I can't tolerate alcohol like I could when I was young. Like, and so it's just, drinking less is a good idea. I can't tolerate a night of sweets the way I used to when I was young. I'm just not as resilient, I guess. My body's not as resilient as it used to be. And so those things are just more important. Even though when you're struggling with these symptoms, they probably feel more like you want them and need them, right? So just a lot of mindset stuff there to work on as well.
Yeah. Okay, good luck.
Good luck.
You can do this. Solidarity.